Am I the asshole for threatening to evict my estranged dad and his family from the house that they currently live in? For some background, my parents divorced when I was 10 because dad quit his job and refused to work so that he can gamble and drink all day. Our country has crappy laws about child support, so mum had to support my sister and me on her own. Growing up, I tried reconnecting with my dad, but it felt like all effort to reconcile was from me. So I eventually gave up and I minimized contact. I kept in touch with dad's side of the family, his siblings and my cousins. I have a good relationship with them. Fast forward to now, my sister and I are living comfortable lives. Our parents remarried, my mum married a nice man and they live overseas. 5 years ago, dad married a girl who was the same age as my younger sister. She was horrible. Whenever my sister would reach out to our dad, she would get pissed and accuse my sister of trying to steal him. They have a son, and I've been nice to him. But because our dad's wife continued her rotten streak, my sister and I decided to cut ties with them. Dad's mum died last year. A few months ago, my aunt, dad's older sister, who's in charge of her parents' assets, called to tell us about our grandmother's will. Our grandfather is also dead, by the way. All of our grandparents' assets have been divided among grandkids, and I got my grandparents' house, the house where my father and his family live. Since I live miles away from the said house and have no plans of moving there, my aunt suggested that I sell it and keep the money for myself. My aunt was pretty insistent that I sell the house because she said that it's what my grandmother would want. My dad neglected her during the last years of her life and put her in a home. He also sold her burial lot to buy drugs. So I agreed to sell the house since it's my inheritance after all. I haven't sold the house yet, but I called my dad to tell him about it so that he can start looking for a house. I wanted to give him a heads up, and I told them they can stay as long as I don't have a buyer yet. My dad was obviously not pleased, but he didn't argue. Meanwhile, his wife got angry and called to scream at me, saying I was being selfish and that I didn't need the house. She let slip that her parents and siblings also live there, so basically they are freeloading off it. She tried to make me feel guilty because now they have to rent. I ignored her, and then she went on harassing me via text and calling me names. At this point, I got pissed, so I told her that if she doesn't stop harassing me, I will have them evicted ASAP, even if no one is buying the house yet. My dad found out, and he told me that I was an asshole to his wife. His siblings found out, and they had my back. They said that his wife was never nice to them, and apparently, she's the one who persuaded my dad to remove my grandmother from her own house and put her in an elderly home so her own family can move in. Am I the asshole? Personally, no. Like, from everything I'm hearing here, they just sound like pieces of crap. I can definitely understand the family aspect and how you want to look after him, even though he's a terrible human. At the end of the day, I don't think you're the asshole for evicting your estranged dad and his family, because as you say, it's your house now, you're the one that owns it, you can do whatever you want. Don't let freeloaders get the best of you, so I'm gonna go not the asshole. And now in the comments, not the asshole. First of all, best to get a lawyer and let any and all future contact go through them. Second, don't let them guilt trip or persuade you. There is the other option that maybe you keep the house and rent it out to them, but I doubt they'll pay you rent, and it will probably be a lot of work and trouble, not to mention the condition the house might be in should they leave in a few years. So while that would be an option, I would stick to your original plan of selling it. The whole rest of his family backs you up, so you don't need to be afraid of backlash from them for selling their parents' home. The only one who will cause you trouble will be your dad and his wife, but it sounds like that will be an issue either way. So best not to keep them around. Wish you all the luck and a long breath. This will be a battle, but it sounds like you have the support on your side. Keep us updated. And OP replies, thanks for this advice. I actually thought about renting it out to them, but there is already a lot of bad blood. I doubt they'd take good care of the place. But yeah, looks like the first step really is to get a lawyer. I feel like it will be a long process, mostly because I live miles away. Last time I visited was roughly 7 years ago. It is an old house, and I doubt my dad did anything to improve it, knowing how lazy he is. Look, I do not recommend renting it to them unless you want to be embroiled in this mess long term. Lawyer up, sell the house, and move on with your life. If this was a family member that you had a close relationship to, or people that cared about you or your well-being, I would feel totally different, by the way. Not the arsehole. Also, you should kick them out before trying to find a buyer, so you can clean it up, and they can't jeopardize any potential buyer. My thoughts exactly. They are surely gonna trash the place. Not the arsehole. First, make sure the house title is in your name, and then hire an attorney to help you evict these people from the house. And OP says, the transfer is being processed. It is a long process, but all documents seem to be in order. My aunt is taking care of all of this since there are multiple properties being transferred to the grandkids. Not sure where you're located, but once it is transferred to you, look into homeowners insurance in case there is an accidental fire or other major issue. And now on to the update. The past week was exhausting, both physically and mentally, but here's an update. Following most of the advice here, I decided to have them evicted as soon as I could. A couple of days after my post, I flew to my parents' hometown, where the house was. I decided to stay for a week. I asked my best friend for moral support, so he flew in the next day. My aunt was able to get me in touch with her lawyer there, who gave me the papers that I needed to establish ownership of the house. She also got me in touch with the local police. My aunt is out of the country, so she couldn't be there. In my country, there are laws protecting squatters, and they can actually dispute being evicted. So I spoke to the cops and asked for help in case things get ugly. It's a small town where people know everybody. They know how much of an asshole my dad was, and Grandma was highly respected in our town because she used to be an educator. It didn't take a lot of convincing for them to agree to help. I contacted the old caretaker of the house, whom my dad fired. I asked her to accompany me. I also did some digging for information. Apparently the wife and her family have a house, but mine was bigger and nicer. 2 days after I flew in, I went to the house with my best friend, the caretaker, and a couple of cops to give my dad and the freeloaders a 3-day notice. As expected, Dad's wife made a scene and became hysterical because they would be homeless. Called me heartless, ungrateful, cruel, etc. My dad was passive. He acted the same way when my mum kicked him out. Didn't argue, but also never admitted his faults. He said he wouldn't wait for 3 days and would leave the next day. He told me that I was an ungrateful daughter and that I would get my karma. A lot of people here advise me to make sure they wouldn't steal stuff, but I honestly don't care about the stuff. I told them they can take what they need, except for a few pieces of furniture, the hardwood and antique ones that Grandma loved. It would make cleaning up easier. Come eviction day, I didn't speak to them. I just watched as they hauled their stuff onto a truck, paid the caretaker to clean the house in the next days, and told her she can have whatever she wanted from the house. Grandma would have approved. I had the locks changed, installed extra locks, chained the gates, cut contact with my dad and his wife. The next step, the selling. I'm planning to sell it below market value just to get it over with, and that's that. I still have a lot to do in terms of selling the house, but at least the drama is over. I'm tired, but relieved. Thank you to everyone here who gave me advice. And now in the comments, I'm glad to hear this went smoothly for you and you did the right thing. My sympathies to you. The way he treated his own mother is absolutely disgusting. I get that some elderly people really do need the round-the-clock care that a home can provide, but how out of it could she have been? She clearly knew what she was doing when she gave you the house. And OP replies, thanks. His mother had Alzheimer's, but he didn't need to take care of her. He was never obliged to. She had a personal nurse, so yeah, the way he treated her was really disgusting. This comment, the one that you responded to above, is really important. Don't let yourself feel guilty because your dad called you ungrateful. Grateful means that someone has done something positive to or for you, and it doesn't sound like you have a whole lot to be grateful to your dad about. Also, it's wild that he treated you, his mum, the caretaker, everyone like crap, and then has the nerve to call you ungrateful. You should try to get market value for it. The hard part is already over. Sell it short, and you'll regret it later. Edit. Even if it's hard, just think of your grandmother and do it for her. Maximize her gift to you and build a great life with the proceeds. And OP says, I would need to think it over, and check with an agent what the market value will be. It's a nice house, but properties in that area are more affordable compared to other parts/cities in the country. Of course, the housekeeper would get incentives. I've known her since I was a kid. She has been with the family for as long as I can remember, and how my dad treated her after removing my grandma was foul. Understandable. Selling a property, even under normal circumstances, is no small thing, let alone with everything that has happened. It's worth taking a beat to process before pulling the trigger. You owe it to yourself to take all the time you need to be sure that you are confident in what you are doing. A competent agent can certainly help. I'm sure they deal with a lot of transactions that carry emotional baggage. Dad is going to be shocked when his wife puts him in an elder's home down the line. He isn't thinking about how she was A-okay doing this to other people, then she would have no qualms doing it to him. He might enjoy the respite from her. Bad decisions bring consequences, even if they take years to get to you. OP's dad is just getting what he deserves for being a crap parent. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for hiding my daughter's autism from her? So pretty much most of her life, our daughter, 14 female, had various issues. She had a speech delay, didn't make eye contact, was extremely hyperactive, had trouble making friends, fidgeted a lot, was extremely strict with rules, and a whole bunch of other stuff. My wife and I suspected that she may be autistic, and we took her to a psychologist when she was 4. The psychologist diagnosed her with hyperactivity disorder, although we don't know if it coexists with her autism or if it was a misdiagnosis. From the ages of 8 to 11, we gave our daughter as much early intervention as possible. She had seen behavioral and speech therapists. She was able to speak, but had a speech impediment. I've given her various books about how to make and keep friends. At that point, she was a bookworm. We got her placed in a social class to help her build social skills. It wasn't until the end of her 4th grade year that she actually got diagnosed with autism. Her psychologist was excited to tell her, but my wife was against it. She wanted to wait until we felt our daughter was old enough to understand. We are aware of the stigma neurodivergent people experience, and she didn't want our daughter to go through that. I agreed to hide it from her until she reached adulthood. This next part is relevant. When our daughter got into grade 6, she was bullied due to her autistic traits. She was gaslit, taken advantage of, had many false friends who backstabbed her, and it made our daughter insecure about her poor social skills. And that was when she started to mask. It left her with such immense trauma that she still has triggers and is in therapy. Today, she came to us and asked, "What's autism?" And we told her it's a different way of thinking. She was confused since she didn't know we meant it in a sense that autistic people have different brain chemistry from neurotypicals. After we elaborated, she told us the reason why she asked. She found out that she is autistic. She apparently found some of her old medical records lying around and read them out of curiosity. She was upset and asked how we could hide this from her. We explained that we wanted to tell her when she was older since we didn't want her to get hurt by other people. She angrily yelled that she did get hurt anyways. She said that all this time she thought there was something wrong with her, but if it weren't for us, she wouldn't have taken the bullying to heart and she would have felt differently, but instead, we made her pain worse. Now she's in her room crying and refuses to speak to either of us. We're starting to wonder if we should have told her about her autism when we knew. And now in the comments, as the parent of an autistic and ADHD teenager, with all due respect, you're the asshole. Get some therapy appointments for yourself to figure out why the hell you thought that was a good idea. Why didn't you ask a child psychologist how to handle the news if you couldn't figure it out yourself? It's not too late to fix this. Let your child know that you made a mistake, apologize, and work together to make things right. You're the asshole. As an autistic person, this is disgusting. How would not telling your daughter protect her? People are not mean to people because they are autistic. It's because being autistic makes us different and people hate different. Learning I was autistic saved my life because I could get accommodations at school, because I could research ways to make my life easier now that I knew why I was different, because it helped me find a community of others like me who could help me because they understood me. Knowing I'm autistic helped me advocate for myself. I could help myself now that I understood why I was different. Knowing I was autistic protected me from toxic and abusive relationships because I understood that I was missing social cues and could research and learn to read others better. You stripped your daughter of her right to understand herself. It could have killed her. Before I knew that I was autistic, my life was hell. I thought being alive was torture for everyone, and we all just pretended we were fine. Is it not? You are a terrible parent. You're the asshole. Please apologize to your daughter. Apologize a lot. What you did is incredibly damaging and traumatic. She will likely never fully trust you again, and then, if she gives you permission, work with her therapist to help her understand how her autism works and get her the support that she needs to navigate a world that was not designed for her. And now on to the update. Her mother and I were completely in the wrong. We should never have tried to hide an integral part of our daughter's identity. We thought that we were just protecting her, but we only made it worse. I didn't know that it wasn't right at the time, but now I do. We come from a country where mental stuff isn't talked about. If anything, the person gets stigmatized for it. So we did our best to support our daughter with what we knew at the time. This isn't to excuse our actions, but rather to explain them. A few hours after posting my original post, her mother and I had a long talk about this, reflecting on what we did wrong and what we should do moving forward. I gave her space for a day or two before knocking on her door and asking her if she wanted to talk with me about it. I apologized for what we did, telling her that we love her no matter what, and promised that we would be better parents moving forward. She says that she understands that we were just trying to do what we thought was best for her, but she felt hurt that we kept these things from her, especially given what happened to her and having to find out from medical records of all things. She says that she isn't sure if she could trust us again for a while. Our daughter is still angry with us, although we understand why. She is at least on speaking terms with us again. We are doing our best to help our daughter through her journey of self-discovery at the moment. We got her another therapist to help her understand more about herself, as well as accept the past bullying. Her mother and I are also doing research about how autism works, and we're looking to get her an IEP at her school to give her access to accommodations. In addition to this, we took some of your advice, and her mother and I have been seeking therapy to better understand our autistic daughter, as well as family therapy. Thank you all for your judgment. Thanks to those who gave tips on how to support our daughter moving forward. I feel ashamed that I didn't realize sooner that I had harmed our daughter. She seems happier now that she understands why she is the way she is. We fiercely love our girl and are lucky to have her. And now in the comments, that's awesome, man. This is what this sub should be. A place where we can encourage each other to be better people. Thanks for the update and good luck going forward. Seriously, while I love any and all updates, I have a special place in my heart for the people who were judged assholes and who read through all the comments and learned stuff. It is so easy to get defensive or angry about it, and it does take strength to accept thousands of people calling you an asshole. I really respect when someone can accept their judgment and become a better person for it. I'm one of the people who commented on the original about being diagnosed late in life. I'm glad you're accepting responsibility, but it really is on you and your wife right now to follow through. Therapy is great, but you are going to need to fight for her and really advocate for her. My experience with education, albeit in a different country, is that even when you clearly should get accommodations due to special educational needs, you may have to fight hard for them and face resistance, / it may not be an easy path for you or her. Also, just a heads up that your daughter might mask less after discovering her diagnosis. It is not uncommon, and I mask a lot less with close friends and at home because I no longer feel obligated to try to appear NT. For me, it is an incredibly positive thing to mask less, but I know that it was a little adjustment for those around me who were used to me masking. While I'm glad you two apologized, the real work is now about to begin. Be there for her if her IEP brings about noticeable accommodations, because middle schoolers and high schoolers don't have the most empathy with people with visible help in academics. If she starts dating while a minor in your care, Please do not talk to her as if she cannot understand what consent is. I was diagnosed with PDD and OS over 20 years ago and recently had the urge to get reevaluated in order to see if now I would have my diagnosis changed to autism itself. I ended up cancelling it out of fear of the regional centre using this as a reason to drop my case, but I googled it. A lot of former titles are now just put under the same branch. I know who I am, it's okay. Good luck to her and you guys. And that's where I'm going to leave this one today, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.